Good evening, folks. Welcome to this week's edition of Grumpy Old Spurs with me and my oppo, Dave. Dave, how are you, mate? I'm just swapping us around because I know that you've got OCD. So, is that better?
I've got OCD. I've got many things. But good evening, Gibbo. Is it time for change, Gibbo? We'll talk about that later on. How are you, Gibbo? That's a nice. Is that a kind of lilac type hooded top you're wearing? Hoodie.
It's a light blue hoodie. It's
Nice.
it's warm at the minute round here, but when the sun goes down, it does get a little bit chilly. So I'll put my hoodie on.
We're a bit colour coordinated, actually, aren't we?
Well, you got light blue Oasis top on, have you?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, feel correct. Ant Deck. I've got the hairline of Deck, look.
And I've got the heights. I've got the heights of the other one.
Yeah, so look, yes. Dave, I'm just going to look in the private chat at the talking points. But obviously, guys, if you can, if the five of you could like and subscribe to this show if you haven't already, follow us on the socials at Lads It's Tottenham, all that guff. But yeah, Dave, what should we get into first, mate? What are you thinking? Should we go back to Chelsea?
Oh,
back to Chelsea.
Would you like to see my Chelsea collage of crap, Gibbo?
Oh, the collage of crap, yeah.
It's the collage, Marlene, the collage of crap. And, I mean, you know, let's just admire my artwork that I hastily put together last night. Where would you? We could probably go. We could even do this clockwise because if we start at the clock, we can see the goal there.
Well, where do you want to start? Because team selection, Dave. Let's have a little. I mean, if we can remember that far back, what did you think when you saw the team announced, mate? What was your thoughts? Strong as we could possibly go, really.
I thought it was strong.
Yeah.
I thought that. I mean, who are we really missing at the moment?
Kulusevski. Yeah.
Dan Sofa Romero. Just kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it was pretty strong. I mean, you had Odegaard up top, didn't you? I'm trying to remember now. Solanke. I mean, I wouldn't start Son, but we're not going there again.
Son, Solanke, Odegaard, wasn't it?
Yeah, Son, Solanke, Odegaard. We're obviously banned from being critical of Son tonight because we're just not allowed to enjoy the good things in life. Good evening, Keith, and good evening to ML Bryn. Good evening, Fires.
Evening, guys.
Evening. Right. Yeah, no, I thought that the lineup was pretty much what you'd expect it to be. You know, we've had one win there in the Premier League and we're playing really bad. So I wasn't actually putting my mortgage on us going to be winning that one. What did you think of the lineup?
Yeah, pretty strong. Pretty much what I thought it may be. I just felt that there might be a little bit more to that. Before, you know, I know we've got nothing to lose going there, really.
No, we
never
don't
win there. So you got nothing to lose. And I was just, I mean, they nearly scored after a minute, didn't they, mate? Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, we can talk about tactics and that till the cows come home. Yeah, they knew what to do, didn't they? It was like after a minute, and we sort of bent over and let them have their way with us nearly after a minute. They knew what to do after that, and
you've gone carry on very early.
Yeah, it just didn't get any better, did it, mate? I mean, I think we maybe had a few little periods. Did we have a shot in the first half, Dave?
I don't think so. No.
Away at a rival, you know,
London derby,
in a big London derby. Yeah, and it was tepid. Tepid be a good word, Dave? Could we use that?
Lethargic.
Lethargic. It was very lethargic.
It was so lethargic. It really was. But you know, the players have been playing a lot of games recently up until this game. They're tired.
Don't start that, Dave.
You know, Maddison had kind of grown his hair out. He's got a new hipster haircut there. You can see that. And he'd been at
Please don't start trolling me live on there, Dave. Even if they had been playing a lot of games, you'd at least expect 20 minutes go out for leather, wouldn't you? Try them like we did, like handball in its early sort of days. Go like out for leather for 30 minutes. Where the other team says we'll sit in, they'll run about for 30 minutes and they'll be fucked. So then we can hit them.
What is the opposite phrase to hell for leather?
Hell for leather.
Heaven for
silk.
Wool. Heaven for wool. How about that? It was all heaven for wool. I think the fans showed more spirit and fight, the away fans, than the team did. And it was pretty. I mean, the goal. They should have got it out in the first place up the pitch. Sometimes I hate to invoke Dave Bassett in the Crazy Gang here, but sometimes you just got to lever it up the pitch and then off you go.
Well, I'll tell you what worried me as well. Vicario looked superb since he come back. How dodgy did he look to start that game?
Look, I know he made good saves, and
he did. He kept us in the game.
I thought it was his worst game since he's come back.
Well, and I think I like him. I think he's a good keeper, and I think since he's come back, he's done really well. And he did keep us in that game. But that's just part of the whole oddity around Spurs, isn't it? That does not inspire any confidence in the players around him. Great that he made those saves and kept us in the game, but you're just thinking, just a bit of calm and composure, but everything is chaos.
I think maybe he needs to see the Dalai Lama and just to chill out a bit. Someone needs to put there's those stories about Terry Butcher in the dressing room headbutting the wall and screaming at the matchday mascot before he went on the pitch, right? I think Vicario needs to listen to like Kenny G or whale song music, because he just needs
Get him in a room, put the panpipes on, get some candles on, or some joss sticks.
Oh, Mark, come on, Mark. What's the matter with you? You've seen the show enough times.
But Dave, it didn't inspire confidence. We come back out the second half. You think, because usually Ange gets into them in our second half performances have got better, haven't they? Recently.
Well, hang on a second there, Gibber. I've got a stat for you. Because the second half was the first time since Arthur Rowe's kick and run team of the 50s that we had the same midfield in the second half and the first half. And that's because we weren't allowed substitutes in the Arthur Rowe era.
No, not two subs made. But nicely well done, Dave, as we can slide into Big Ange.
Yes, I didn't mean that, but carry on.
Big Ange makes two substitutions and gets a round of you don't know what you're doing off the away faithful, which obviously he took umbrage to, didn't he?
No, hang on a second. The Tottenham faithful were shouting, "Did you want a cup of tea?" He didn't quite hear. He was trying to get two sugars in his tea rather than one, and that's why they were shouting, and there was a miscommunication. That's what he should have said. That would have been a more plausible excuse than the one he gave.
Well, for people who might not have, obviously, two subs come on, and gets a round if you don't know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of his subs goes on to score a goal. And the foul had been deemed to have been... It was a foul, wasn't it, Dave? It was a foul leading up to the goal. It was a foul. The Chelsea keeper, terrible goalkeeping, good strike, but it went in. And then that's when Ange cupped his ear to the crowd, tell them, by cupping his ear, telling them to, come on, let's cheer, let me hear you louder. The universal, come on, boys, let's hear you.
Well, if you were Ange, as some people like to call him, if you were Ange, what is the universal symbol for come on, let's get going and revving up the crowd? What would you do? Yes, you would.
Come on, let's be having you. Where are you?
What would Danish flappy hands Højbjerg, what would he do?
Oh, he'd have been right up there, fist pumping. Or even, like, because obviously, as we kept getting told earlier in Ange's reign, Klopp had so long. Klopp used to give it the old That didn't he?
And then tear his hamstring whilst berating the fourth official because he's such a character. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, but that's what I would have thought would have been, come on, crowd, give us a cheer. You haven't had much to cheer about lately. I mean, but like these things, him saying that, I wanted them to cheer because they've not had a lot to cheer about lately. It's just like, fucking hell, mate. Thank you. Thanks for owning it.
Mark, you are in a safe space for making unpopular opinions, because if this is anything, the stick of this show is to make some unpopular opinions. This is a very interesting point. The fans should be able to take it if they want to dish it out.
They should do.
Gibbo.
They definitely should do, Dave. And
if
but it
Brendan
works both
Johnson,
ways, doesn't it?
If Brendan Johnson is knocking on your door, knocking on the Gibbo family door now, and the doorbell goes, and it's the theme tune to Happy Days, which is your doorbell at Chateau Gibbo, and he's standing there now, and he's saying, "Gibbo, I've had enough." What would you do?
I'd go, what do you want me to say, mate? 2 good goals. I'm not going to turn around and say I think you're the best thing since sliced bread. Well done. Keep going.
But Dave, when
we're talking about this, the fans should be able to take it. And I'll tell you what, I think there'd have been a lot more respect if he'd have just said, yeah, look, fans give me a load of stick about a sub I made. So I put a sub on who scored. So I thought I'd just give him some back. And he could have said it was all meant in sort of like, in banter, but like say, I made that sub, you give me grief. But if he'd have owned it, but it's the nonsense he come out with after.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and we'll get onto it. He's made an interesting point, which we'll get onto in a bit.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I agree with Mark, actually. Look, we all know that going to football and the live experience is our ability to kind of vent the week's frustrations and life's frustration at our football team, both positively and negatively. Get that completely.
Yeah.
Have I booed any player that's played for Tottenham? I've booed a couple of players. I distinctly remember booing Ian Curtain's hair Walker when he smiled when the ball bobbled over him when Liverpool scored. I went absolutely apoplectic, if that's the right word.
Apoplectic.
That and epileptic. No, I'm only joking to anyone who's got epilepsy. I think that, and also the point that Ange made about cameras and this, that, and the other. Like at the moment, he's like the circus act of poking the bear and see if you get a reaction, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, he's got a point about that as well. But, the one side of the argument is that we travel all over the country. We spend a lot of money, and I appreciate that when he went to Chelsea. We shouldn't have to have something like that. But there is a balance there. If you're going to call someone a rude word and you're going to shout, you're going to shout at people, then if you're going to do that, you're probably going to expect to get something back, right?
Yeah.
But if he'd have said, mate, and then owned it after the game, rather than saying I was revving them up by showing them my ear, then I think that's just not plausible, is it?
Mate, it's just, look, you're right. All these things are right. You got to expect something back, but that's the name of the game, isn't it, mate?
It's the name of the game.
What is going to happen now? He's spoken about phones and stuff like that, which he's right about. But that's society and the fan base with social media and stuff like that. They want to see a reaction. They want to record it. He's literally told them what pisses him off now. He literally told them what pisses him off. And the thing about the hand to the ear was, if he'd have owned it and said it was a bit of banter or just, you could have got over it. But I think the fact that he did it and then he tried to hide it, I think really, you can imagine him thinking, fuck you lot. Yeah, let's hear you now, you bunch of fucking idiots. That's what it basically was.
Yeah.
Not like...
And that's the Aussie way. That's what we do here in Aussie. Milton, me, if someone comes up to me at work and says I'm not doing a good job, in the office, I cut my ear to them. And I go, look at that.
But mate, it just ain't going to wash, is it? It's just not a good look. And it's probably not the right thing to do in the professional capacity, along with the fact that he's been biting back at people, and he's probably knocked the fans before for
Yeah.
their views. Because Dave, when he said about the Man City thing, I agreed with him. At that point, I'm thinking, look, we've got to be bigger than all this. We've got to be wanting to win football matches. That's got to be our main thing for us to finish as high as we can. But, you know, we've got to get over this. We've got to set our own course of destiny and not worry about other people, what our results are going to do for them. We've just got to keep winning. I agreed with him.
I mean, the Man City thing, I was like David Bowie in a chameleon-like way during that game. At the start, we played all right, and I think he had Kula as a false nine.
Yeah, false nine, yeah.
And we played all right, and I thought, yeah, we're looking all right here. But as soon as that City first goal went in, I thought, well, it's over now, isn't it? And so, you know, when Sonny was through on goal at the end, I was like, oh, well, the Gooners are going to be upset. And then, you know, there was a Gooner at work and he's talking about small club mentality and this, that, and the other. Well, mate, if the Gooners hadn't parked the bus last season up at the Etihad when they were in a good chance of winning the league, don't rely on your biggest rivals to do you a favour. Chelsea didn't. Again, you know, the Leicester... that whole thing. But anyway, look, Chelsea...
Absolutely, Dave. Absolutely. But, you know, what I'm trying to say is we agreed with him for that, but that's when it started. And I think he's had little digs over the time and stuff that shouldn't really bother you. But when you're not winning and when your season's going tits up, like me and Leon said, obviously Leon's not here tonight, fancy giving it to the fans like that when you're fucking 16th in the league with the record he's got.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? That's even worse. That's like fancy giving it that when you know you've been a part of some of the performances and stuff that you have. You know, that is a shit look. But anyway, the game was just
Listen. I hate Chelsea. I hate Chelsea. All right. I hate Arsenal more, but it's like that much. In terms of my hatred of Chelsea, right?
It's West Ham I dislike, mate.
No, I think they're dreadful. A certain section, a small percentage of their fan base is just dregs, racist, horrible people. The ground's awful. We never get anything. The only good thing about the ground is the area around it. This is quite nice, obviously, because it's in the posh part of London. But other than that, we never get a result there. We're rubbish. Milton, we'll come on to your question at the end, if that's all right.
Yeah.
But 15th, 16th, 17th in the league, we've still got the battle on to be the worst placed team in London since 2003, 2004. So I think there's a little bit of space between us and West Ham, but there's a big 6-pointer coming up for that one. But
Dave, just quickly, do you listen to View from the Lane?
Yeah, I do.
I don't know. You probably looked into this. I listened to it, couldn't believe it, then just carried on listening. David Kelly was saying, isn't this on course to be the worst season in 90 years? 9-0.
I think it's about the number of losses. I think we might have the same number of losses as the season that we went down. I think, right? Yeah. And he did say something like the worst season of losses since the 30s or something.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, we know this is bad, and he ain't going to be there at the start of the season. I know that you and Leon are very understandably animated about him, but there's no hiding from the fact he won't be there at the start of next season. It just won't. He's going. Okay.
Even if we win the Europa League. Can you imagine him playing in the Champions League, coaching us in the Champions League?
Well, because he rotates so well between the league and Europe, as we've seen this season.
But you're right. We weren't going to really get into that discussion tonight. But I'll just draw a line under the Chelsea game. Just a really disappointing. You know, as you do before, Dave, you're thinking, could we? We're due a win there, and then.
No, I never thought that. Draw a chalk line over the murdered body that is indeed the Spurs away at the bridge. And I think let's move on. There was I think before the Southampton game, I thought there was an interesting quote here from Ange, where he said, Postecoglou added, oh, mate, there's never any sort of defending of the club or the club defending itself, mate. I hear plenty of people, mate, defending other people. But with Tottenham, wherever there's a saw, there's a real pylon to stick our finger in, then we accept our fate. The only voice you'll hear is me.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point he made.
Well, in this country, though, Dave, like in the UK, you pretty much do only really hear from coaches in press conferences and everything, don't you? I know in other like maybe Italy, because when we got Paratici, you say you hear from these types of people more, but it isn't. It is just pretty much the managers over here, isn't it?
Okay, so I will, if you don't mind, I'll respond to that. So I remember when Scott Munn came in, and our friend of the show, Cameron, down in Melbourne, said that Munn was very good at being the link between the supporters and the club in AFL or wherever he was at, right? It's still a sport. It's still got supporters. And so I've only seen him once doing an interview promoting the fuel guzzling carbon footprint game down in Australia, where honestly, if you'd put a paper bag on his head, it was like the Australian Daniel Levy, right?
Yeah.
Then we are going to then basically, that's him. So we've never heard a word from him ever.
Yeah.
Langer only comes on after the window shuts. Never anything else. I mean, and then you've obviously got the fans forum where there's questions put to the panel, which is more stage managed than the Annie the musical, right? So at the end of the day, he's got a point really, because the only one that ever gets put in front of the media. I get that, it's the way we do things in England. I get that, but there's the media love to pile it onto us, right? They absolutely love it. And, for example, here we go.
But we're cannon fodder, aren't we?
Yeah, but here we go. We continually give the media and rival fans things to laugh at. Losing to Leicester at home is a prime example. If you don't lose, we can't be bantered about it by Paddy Power. Et al., says Phil using Latin. Very good.
He's right now, though, isn't he? I mean, Paddy Power have had some absolute blinders with Spurs fans, haven't they? I mean, they are the kings of like banter, putting it on there. And they don't get that material from nowhere, do they? They don't nobody's just coming up with that off the top of their head. There's form for it. So you've got to help yourself. You start getting results, you start doing things properly.
Yes.
You start picking up trophies, it goes away.
Yes. But the point is that if you look at the media, look, I'll tell you something. It's lucky I don't live in England and have Sky Sports, because I think I'd put my giant-sized boot into the television, given the what I perceive to be such an anti-Tottenham agenda, right? Redknapp, who's not got Jamie Redknapp is still upset about his dad getting sacked by Harry. Than Harry is. Harry seems to have got over it. Oh, Daniel, I still get on with Daniel, when I'm down at the races.
Harry has got over it. Jamie Redknapp is obviously extremely bitter about the whole thing.
Jamie Redknapp got a 3-year contract.
Yeah,
not on a pay for. He was the only one who wasn't offered we were the only club that didn't offer him a pay as you play, because he was so injury prone. And so him and Darren Anderson did a timeshare on the treatment table over his contract before he bequeathed it to Eric Coco Lamella. All right. So he got a good living out of us in the latter stages of his career. We made him club captain. So the pattern of picking good club captains continues. Yeah. Right. And so basically, and that's what it is, right? We should get Paddy Power marketing teams to take over from ours. They're far better than what we've got.
Correct. But Dave, right? Hoddle gets stick on the socials. Hoddle gets stick when he's on. Hoddle's a fan. Hoddle's a Spurs fan who's watching those games, who wants them to do better. See where they're falling short and calls it up. Right? Yeah. Gets pulled apart on socials for that, because people don't like hearing it.
It's the TikTok generation who think it's the TikTok generation who don't know the history of their club, right? They don't like hearing it. Let me tell you something. Glenn Hoddle is one of my childhood heroes. People used to get to the ground before the game to watch him warm up. Okay, and I'm serious, to do the tricks and everything he did. One of the greatest players I've ever seen. And if he wants to criticise us, go for it, mate, because he was there as a boy.
If he was wrong, though, Dave, if it was wrong and out of order, does he labour the point? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is he wrong? No.
No.
Right. Jamie Redknapp, on the other hand. So I think he loves it. I think he loves being able to get into Spurs.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And Carragher. And Carragher as well. Carragher hates us.
Yeah, well, Carragher, I think we're an easy target for him. He liked us under Pochettino. I don't know what has got under his skin about it, but as Neville's always reasonably balanced about us. He said Spurs games are good to watch and commentate on. They are good because it could go either way, couldn't it? There's always entertainment because there's no control. It's a chaos. Where else is this media agenda against Spurs? People questioning them. I think Roy Keane's pretty good. I think he calls it as it is. If he thinks something isn't, and I think he does that with all the footballers. Something isn't very good, he said. If something is good, he pretty much says. And we
get on the global sports thing because I think it being sports though. So we get Jim Beglin, who was a left back when Harold Wilson was Prime Minister of England. He hates us, and he's always on. Andy Townsend. But when it's Chelsea-Tottenham, Andy Townsend's always on, and he hates us. There's plenty that don't like us. I mean, you even got that smug idiot on TalkSport, Alex Crook, who's meant to be the football correspondent, and he's a United fan, and he hates us as well. So sometimes some people have got to give it to him live on air.
Like yourself. But Dave, like I said, if Spurs as a club and the players and the manager want all this to stop, fucking do something about it. Start doing your jobs better and start getting, being better on the pitch.
You've gone into Keno territory.
But there won't be any of it then. They can only give it you if you're giving them fuel material to do it, mate.
Well, I agree.
Simple as that.
I agree. The only thing is, if you remember, the head of comms at Tottenham was a guy called Simon Felstein, who used to sit next to Poch at the press conferences. He did. Yeah. And there was that infamous one where, Poch was a big flirt. He was flirting with United.
Yeah.
And Simon Felstein at one point said, there's no more questions about Man United. Move on. And Poch was laughing, right? But Simon Felstein was there standing up for our club. And that... Yeah. Is what? No, I'm quite serious on this point. Sometimes listen. I know, like Alex Crook was mouthing off and this, that, and he was like, no, where's your trophy or the bus parade and all this business, right? Do you know what I mean? And I was like, going, I get that, but we've beaten you twice, or we've got a draw against you. You're rubbish. You got your little jibes in. So I agree, we're not in a position of strength here, but you got to stand up for your club. You have to stand up, and I'm really serious about that. And you have to stand up for your club,
mate. And in this country, the way it goes, as it's always gone, like you said, fair enough, that guy isn't there, but that is the job of the person, whoever is in charge of. I won't say because it seems like everything I do, I'm having a dig at him. So whoever is the manager of that club knows that is what. So Klopp became the figurehead at Liverpool. Pep become the figurehead at City, Arteta at Arsenal. They whether they like the questions or not, they're the ones who face it. They're the ones that stick up for it. That's just the way it is, mate.
It's just the way it is.
And we need to maybe help out. Hopefully, we can help ourselves by, like I said, doing better on the pitch. And everybody's at the club's got a part to play in that, not just the players, the recruitment. All those bits and pieces, but that is how we stop all that. And
tell me something. When is the only time has our glorious chairman ever been on the pitch? Ever in 20 odd years?
Was it the last day of the lane?
The semi-final in Amsterdam. He came on at the end. He was on the pitch. Right, a leader, true leader, shows up when things get tough. Right? Absolutely. His proclamations are at the Forum, Bloomberg, being interviewed by clever A-level students at Cambridge University, and that's about it, right? Which leads us ever so nicely, Gibbo, on to
Yeah, change for Tottenham. Come on then. Well, Dave, obviously you're the change for Tottenham guy. You're a silent partner in the time for change movement. You've been on lots of spaces.
Yeah.
What do you want to say about the march? I thought it was I thought it looked extremely well attended. Looked like they had higher numbers than they did the first time, and they seemed to get what they wanted, a little bit more attention in the media. How do you feel it went? And speaking to people who were involved, which I know you probably have, how do they all feel it went?
Okay, so just to say, I'm not actually part of change for Tottenham. To be clear, I just want to change for Tottenham and have wanted to change for Tottenham since we appointed AVB. Okay, so I mean, the guys there. At the end of the day, the guys there were. The aim of it really is, if you look at it, it got more mainstream media attention again. And basically it got mainstream media attention. I think it was a bit overshadowed, through no fault of anyone's, is the fact that the Man United one, the Man United protester, I think are they called the Spirit of 58? No, can't be. It was a Spirit of something. Apologies to Man United fans, none of whom watch this, obviously. But they had a sit-in. It's the Manchester derby. It was televised. So if your optimum time for getting some exposure was that, obviously Man United are going to get more coverage because it's Man United. And interestingly, 606 that I've rung up twice after each protest, and I've left my comments. They haven't put me on, but they've put on pro ENIC fans. So I don't know what that's about. But I think it's about and it's a cliche. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And again, everyone will go, well, people. At the end of the day, some people said, well, there were less numbers than last time. Some people said it's a failure. Some people, I think if Franco
I don't believe that, Keith. I don't. But if you're a Spurs fan and you're on social media, or even if you don't go on there, like you just go on there now and then, I don't believe that.
Yeah, and look, historically, historically, when the cheese room was the cheese room, there are a number of people in the cheese room who didn't want to entertain a conversation about ENIC because their starting point and reference was Alan Sugar, and it was always the argument, well, things aren't bad as they are under Alan Sugar. Well, we've now had 24 years now of this, and I don't think you can keep benchmarking against Alan Sugar into like 5 years. Hello, Elena. Good to see you. And I think that it's if he didn't know.
Keith, I just want to say I'll do this. I think maybe it was a bit tongue in cheek. I don't know if he's fully behind the movement. Whether it was just a little bit of a lie. I find it difficult to think anyone wouldn't have known. I think it was well documented. It was quite loud outside the ground. I'm not sure about that, Keith. Maybe never, but I think it might have been a little bit tongue in cheek when said.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, it's probably is the case that there are people who think that there shouldn't be demonstrations, there shouldn't be marches. We should be 150% behind the team all the time, and it's not helpful to the team, which I think is a load of rubbish. It can't be a mutually exclusive thing that you can protest and complain about the owners and support the team. You can do both. It's pretty simple. I think that well, that's what happens, right? And the challenge is that the people who are involved are doing it with the intentions of having a conversation and about change at Tottenham, and being done in a way that everyone's got their right to their own opinion. Everyone is trying to, they're not. No one's a professional lobbyist here. Don't hang out in Washington or Westminster all the time. It's volunteers giving up their own time to try and do something of a cause that they believe in. We talked about it on the cheese room when they first started about a year and a half ago, because the way I saw it is they occupy the middle ground of on the one hand, there are certain YouTube channels, personalities that abuse you. That if you don't, I'm going to abuse you because you don't agree with me. That's always going to get people to agree with your opinion. Against the other end of it, of Enoch and Great. I mean, as I said, there's this guy who was on TalkSport and he rang up 606. Was like, Levy's done a great job. He's a great businessman. Blah blah blah. He is a great businessman for him, his family trusts, and the ownership. So, as I said, I don't know about the numbers compared to the time before. Obviously, it may well be that doing marches all the time may not be the thing to do as well. There are other ways and strategies as well, and that's what it's about.
Dave. Everyone do that because they know it will boil people's piss, mate. That's what they do.
I get that.
Stick, mate.
I get that.
That is based. I'd say on TalkSport, there's some good stuff to listen to, but there's very few where you can actually listen and think we're going to have serious conversation here or proper balanced views. There's not a fat lot of that, mate.
Especially when I'm on it.
Yeah, exactly. It's what I'm talking about. But sorry, Dave, carry on.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, so to my mind, there's a great effort by everyone involved. And believe me, it's a lot to organise that.
Yeah.
A huge amount to organise. You are liaising with the club, to be fair to the club. You can do these things. You can bring in certain flags and things like that, as long as in accordance with the health and safety regulations. You do have to liaise with the police. It's a lot of organisation, a lot of people giving up a lot of time.
Responsibility.
So well done to everyone involved.
Absolutely.
On the day, to the guys and girls that changed for Tottenham. I think they did a great job. And I am supportive. Just to be clear, I don't have my living room like this all the time with the posters. I don't have people over for vol-au-vents and canapes and they can see the change for Tottenham things. But it's something that I fully support and happy to discuss. And again, everyone's entitled to their opinion. And if people believe that Levy and Enoch are doing a great job, then that's fine. It's their opinion.
But for me, Dave, even if that changed for Tottenham and I don't know how it will work in these circumstances, but even if that makes them think, that they are, that the fans, this is what's happening now. We have got to start, because I want better footballing decisions from the club. That's my change. That's how I see change for Tottenham. Because I don't see Levy. Levy is whatever he will leave when he wants to, under his own circumstances.
Yes.
Whenever he wants to. So in that respect, I'm a bit like, that's going to be difficult. But for me, the change for Tottenham that really needs doing, first and foremost, is make better decisions on that football pitch, or for what's happening on the football pitch.
Well, so let's have a look at. Go on. Sorry, I can't.
So if that leads to that, I'm all in.
Yeah, let's have a look at an example of a good footballing decision on the pitch. There we go. It's our old favourite. There's the king.
Your old favourite.
This is the epitome of Enoch. Sorry, I'll get rid of it. I agree. Look, but I don't have any. Let's move on in a minute, right?
Yeah.
But I am, and I am firmly of the belief that Daniel Levy is not capable of creating a decent footballing infrastructure in order for those good footballing decisions to be made, because he does it on the cheap and he does it with appointments of people who are substandard, and that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
So well done to the change for Tottenham people. They did a great job, and I support.
Well, at some point,
all the way.
We'll hopefully get some people on. So the discussions me and you are having, and the people who watch this, so they haven't got to sit through like other YouTube shows or whatever that go on for like 2.5 hours or whatever. Yes. We can sort of we'll hopefully get someone on to have a proper catch up and what they're thinking of doing and short, sharp bullet points.
Yes. I agree. We'll have to sell it to them that the peak that we sometimes get is 30 viewers, but on catch up we get hundreds of thousands.
Exactly.
Of views.
Exactly. Stop it. Look, somebody's got to stick up for this podcast, Dave.
Right. Shall we move on to the testimonial game?
Oh, yes. Because
Shall we move on?
Yeah, because before we actually get into the Southampton game, after we got people. The social media again. Social media creates so much aggro, doesn't it?
It does.
Anybody who watched that game, anybody? No, we were all happy that Spurs won. Every Spurs fan must have been happy that Spurs won. Pretty much every Spurs fan. But I don't think anybody in their right mind can say that was a really good game of football, high quality football. I think most people would say we won, job done, but that was a game low on quality. And I think that is a fair statement, don't you?
I have to make a confession to you, Gibbo. I only watched the for this show. It's very important I watch the games, right?
Yeah.
And if it's not possible to do it because of work or school drop-offs, then I watch the full game the night before the show, right? But I had to do an early morning drop-off for my oldest son, and so I didn't watch it. I had to go to bed early, and also I had been at the Ministry of Sound Naughties on the weekend, so my feet were a bit tired from all that.
Yeah.
Dancing that I was doing for 5 hours. Let me tell you.
Mate,
I'll tell you something. Middle-aged raving is the way to go, my friend. Okay.
Yeah.
So I watched the 25 minutes highlights, and even in the 25 minutes highlights, I was bored. I was looking at my phone. I was looking at. I mean, Southampton are obviously the worst team in. They are going to be obviously the earliest team to be relegated. I think they need 1 or 2 more points to beat Derby's record. They've now had 2 managers in the season. Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
And they are rubbish. But if anyone thinks that the fact that we beat them, so yes, as you said, social media was like, well, we've beaten them 3-1, and so what's the level of expectation here? You can. Was it someone said you can support the team, you can be happy without barbed comments about us winning a game of football. You can rejoice in the joy of winning a football, which I think annoyed you, Gibbo, if that was right.
No, mate. What? It's not 1 or 2 people. It's just like I don't go all the time anymore. I've been lucky enough to be able to get a couple of tickets towards the end of the season to Forest and Brighton. I hate Spurs fans. And more like the match-going fans who go more than me, but most of us, I hate being called entitled because I don't think any of us think we're entitled to do anything. We just like to see our team play well and win as many football matches as we can. And impatient. Those are the 2 things that really.
I love impatient. I love impatient
because we've been waiting for a long. You know, it is what it is. I hate people being called those. I hate fans being called those 2 words, whether it's aimed at me or at anyone else, no matter what other people. Spurs fans aren't impatient and Spurs fans aren't entitled. Just out of order, I think. From people who are trying to be, be positive or say, but they're calling other people out for other stuff. I don't like that. I don't think that's fair.
No.
And I think it's quite reasonable to say we won, we're happy. But that was a poor game of football. We need to move on. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No. I mean, as I said, I'll admit, I've only watched the 25 minutes highlights, and it was boring, the highlights, right?
Yeah.
And, apparently they had a good lot of possession in the second half, and they had chances, and they are rubbish.
They are bad. I mean, the first half, Tottenham controlled it. We went strong, and people saying, why have we gone that strong? So in sort of Ange's defence, I suppose, in a way, I'm saying, well, he's got to go strong, hasn't he? He cannot afford to keep losing football matches. Nothing would have happened if he'd have lost to Southampton. He'd have still got the games he's got, but he can't afford to keep losing. The pressure's on him. His back's against the wall. We had to win. That's why he went strong. And maybe as well, we're trying to get, not that it might not have worked the way he wanted it to, a bit of momentum, a bit of confidence in the team for the games that are coming up, which are really big. But it was a game low on quality, and Southampton played a massive part of that in the first half. They were really poor, but it did sort of just have an end of season feel to it. But I think
on the telly, the atmosphere in the ground, it was, as I said, it was like a testimonial.
Yeah,
it was actually like going to the cricket.
Yeah, but it's like people saying the big thing about Brennan Johnson not taking the penalty and Tau taking it. Now I know it was the 94th minute, but you know, but yeah, we'll come on to that. But I know it was the 94th minute. But if Tau's the best penalty taker, if Kane had been there, Kane would have took it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like Tau steps up, takes a penalty, and scores. What if Brennan Johnson had took it and had missed, and they'd have kit, and we'd have all been up the that end of the pitch, and they'd have broke away quick and scored. I'm not saying they would have, and it was 2-2.
There wasn't long left, though, was there?
No, there wasn't long left, Dave, but it only takes a second to score. That the keeper saves that ball. Spurs players are all holding their heads. Southampton players start rushing forward. They took the ball forward.
They're all holding their heads like that.
Yeah. 10, oh God, I can't believe we should have let Tau take the penalty.
Would they like this? Would they be going like this? I'm so.
And then they throw the ball up 10 seconds. They're down the other end because Spurs getting broke on isn't something
we've ever seen. We've never seen that ever.
So what I'm saying, there's a possibility that who cares? Let him score. Let him take the penalty. Let him score the goal. 3-1. End of. We move on. But yeah.
I mean, I was disappointed that Jed Spence didn't wear his trademark sunglasses during the game, given the kind of
he could have in the first half.
I mean,
and he could have had a seagull on the go as well. He could have been at his.
Yeah, he could have got his Sunday paper out and his deck chair, and he could have, read the paper because really didn't have to do much, did he?
Yeah.
But I think you're gone.
So no, you go on, Matt. I was just about to say that it is what it is. It wasn't a very good game, but we won. We needed to win. You can't be losing to them at home. I mean, they lost to us. They stuck their manager. The Southampton board are like, we can't be losing to Spurs away. They never win. They never win at home.
And the board said after we'd lost to Leicester, who have not won a single game of football,
or scored, have they?
Or scored. The board said to themselves, "We've lost to Leicester at home. Carry on, Orange.
Yeah, on you go,
Orange. I want
to see more Orange ball.
I want to see more Orange ball. So, and obviously the talk is, of course, the renaissance of Brennan Johnson, the Johnson-naissance. And let's look at his numbers for the season. Hopefully they're true numbers. He has scored. What do they call it these days? Fashionably, the goals plus the assists. Goal involvement, isn't it?
Yes, it's goal involvement.
It's the goal. I always talk about goal involvement, don't you, Gibbo?
Yeah, that's my favourite stat. They're my favourite players. Where at the end of the season, they can say to me, people can say about a player, you can go, yeah, but goal involvement, he's brilliant at them.
Do you know before the Tamworth game, you had one of the Tamworth players had to fix the goal, the net. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Is that classified as a goal involvement?
Well, might be, Dave, but
he might get a special column for his stats at the end of appearances, goals, assists, net repair. We'll
look into that.
We should look into that because we will, and we haven't had. And apologies to anyone. A couple of things, bit of housekeeping points. I couldn't do dog of the week because it didn't seem to be a dog of the week. I don't think they even bothered with a dog of the week before the Southampton game.
No,
even the dogs couldn't be asked for the Southampton game. And Gibbo, I get a lot of people coming up to me in the streets of the lower North Shore of Sydney, and they're always asking me, Gibbo, how are you going with the Spurs 90s book?
Oh, I'm still on that first chapter, mate, but I'm getting there.
Are you still on 1991 or 91?
I think what I think will happen is, Dave, when Spurs start playing quite poorly, I'll probably want to look fondly back on those 90s days and I'll read it.
You're waiting for Tottenham to start.
I'm waiting for Tottenham to start playing poorly.
Right, okay. Well, you are patient.
So just obviously to get back onto Brennan Johnson.
Yes.
I thought they were both really good finishes. Now, I'm not a big fan of Brennan Johnson.
I have heard that rumour. I've heard it.
Two good finishes.
Yeah.
He got man of the match, obviously, scoring the 2 goals. But do you think he had a good game? Or I know you actually didn't see. Does anybody think he had a good game?
To be honest, Gibbo, if you were a leading QC and I was a judge, I would be admonishing you right now. I'd say the prosecution cannot ask a leading question to the witness. We've actually got 14 watching, so we've almost got a jury. We're over a jury.
But one thing I will say, it leads me on, and obviously, like I said, I'm not the biggest fan. But I think he's got to play Thursday now. I think he has. I think when you look at our goal, he's the only bloke that looks like if a ball does get near him in the box, he's going to score.
Yep.
Or he could score at the minute. I don't see any goal threat from Son at the minute.
No.
Like, you can come on to these points before we just quickly go on to Frankfurt. Solanke took a lot of stick on social media after that game. Now, I put on there, it's a difficult job receiving the ball 35 to 40 yards away from the goal with your back to goal and then having no support. We literally ran him lame at the start of the season and we made hardly any chances for him. So, like, Johnson's the only one who really does a lot of fuck all but arrives at the back step to tap it home.
Someone on the Spurs show this week was saying that he played more as an inside forward for Forest. I'm not quite sure how that works in the modern game, but anyway. And he should be played more centrally. And he's the best finisher at the club, and therefore he should be in the middle.
Well, I don't know. I mean, a lot of his goals are one-touch finishes. They were saying about it on Sky, and he's there to put them away. I think his positioning's good. He gets in good areas to do that.
His first goal.
I don't think that makes it.
But his first goal was a good goal. Come on,
really good, good, mate. But if he's the best finisher at our club, then Leon's in the chat. But yeah, if he's the best finisher at our club, I don't think that's that's not a good sign, really.
No, but I think at the end of the day,
two good goals,
two good goals. And I think a good point here from our friend ML Bryn.
Yeah,
a lot of
to him is atrocious.
I mean, a lot of people were talking about using the sub with the Dom, but that's their personal tastes. But he doesn't get the service, and he's just come back from injury.
Our front line needs work.
And a very important point from Keith here. When he did jury service, it lasted for 14 weeks. So just probably was that a gangland trial? Did you have to go away to some hotel somewhere? And well done, Keith. There we go. Jury service. So if we look at these numbers here, he's got 11 goals in 27 games, 3 out of 8 in Europa. In the FA Cup, well, we didn't bother that. If you look at these numbers on the face of it, you go for an attacking forward, that's pretty good numbers. But as we know, the age-old problem with him is he doesn't do anything else whatsoever. Nothing.
No, he doesn't really. I mean, assists. What we got assists? 4 assists in 40. So as you look at it and you say the goals and the assists together are a good number, aren't they? But then when you look at the 4 assists in 40 games, I don't think for a player who plays in that position, I don't think that's as good.
No,
as
that's right.
You know what I mean? It's so strange. He's such a strange player, and I mean,
if I'd done more research, I could have probably looked up who he's got the goals against, because I have a feeling
Southampton 2, Ipswich 2.
Yeah, has he really got them against top quality? It's like Gareth Bale 2. Didn't really score.
But they've been important for us this year because of how we've been playing. So you get to those positions to do that. It's just we need in that position. I feel you need, and not. I don't want to sound too off, but we do need more from those players and those.
I mean,
Son isn't scoring, is he? Son.
I mean, no, I mean, I've got to be honest. I look at our forward options at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got Odegaard. Okay, I'll be charitable because he had a bad injury and he's just back. I've not exactly been blown away by him, but I'll give him time.
Mediocre.
Johnson, we've talked about. Well, you've gone mediocre. I'm giving him a bit of time.
Yeah.
All right. Johnson, we've talked to death. Who else have we got up there? We've got Sonny.
I'm talking about Werner.
Yeah,
I'm talking about the front. The front.
Yeah, I know.
Mediocre,
I know.
Our front.
But this is what I'm saying, right? It reminds me of the time when we had Holtby, Sigurdsson, and Dempsey, and we just rotated them. And every time they came off the bench for 20 minutes, they looked good. But the minute you started them, they were rubbish. And a rotation went on and on and on, right? And then I just look at it and I go, up top, we've got I'm not sure that Cooley's best position is the one on the right, cutting in on the left. I think he's better in the mid. I think he's better in the midfield. And then,
Dave, he's got to play there. When you look at it, Dave, at the minute, I think you'd have to play him when fit on the right. Look, put it this way: Brennan Johnson left Forest. He get nowhere near their front line now.
Nope, he would not.
Hudson-Odoi and Elanga would walk into our front three.
Timo Werner came off the Leipzig bench.
Yeah.
And, who else we got? Heels out on loan. Manor Solomon out on loan. Tell, I'd like to see Tell given more of a chance on the wing.
Yeah.
I don't think he's not a striker. So, that's what it is. But let's... Time's getting ahead of us. I know that you need to catch up on the Oneiden line later on tonight, so it's time to. I think it's time to head on over to Europe. I've flown to Frankfurt during the week for the show. I have, and here is my top research, and let's preview the new biggest game of the season after the last biggest game of the season. We're at home to Frankfurt Thursday night, Friday morning, about 5 a.m. this time. And let's have a look
to watch it.
I surely will, my friend. If I get up to do the show at 5 a.m., I will be getting up to watch Frankfurt. And here we go. Frankfurt, they are indeed third in the Bundesliga. I didn't realise that Dortmund were having such a bad season, but there you go. They lost on the weekend.
Yeah.
Their top goal scorer is now playing for City and in my fantasy team at the moment. And their goalkeeper is indeed out of the game.
Yeah.
So if you've listened to View from the Lane, Gibbo.
I have. And I'll tell you where else, Davo, for anyone, HG of the lads, it's Tottenham channel, was on Also Spurs. Because obviously I think Spurs are his team, but he does follow Frankfurt in Germany, so he gave a little bit of an insight on there. But they are, I think their biggest strength is counter-attacking. Is like when play breaks down, breaking on teams and hitting them that way, which is what I think they'll come, obviously, by the sounds of it, is what they'll come to do at our place. But I fancy us to win on Thursday, David. I think it's last chance saloon. Yeah, I think it's last chance saloon.
Wow.
The manager, the players know it.
Wow.
If they can't get themselves, if the manager and the players can't get themselves or get anything extra out of themselves on this game, then it well and truly is over.
Well,
so
I mean, it is over.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it's over. Look, it's over. Okay. All right. For Ange. I'm obviously I'm a member of Grumpy Old Spurs, and ergo I can be grumpy at times, but I don't have a warm and fuzzy feeling about this. I'm just feeling that they're going to get a goal early, and they're going to really defend tightly, even though that's not really how they play. But I just think.
Go on, sorry, Dave.
I'm kind of going to a throwback 80s German team performance, right? With a little bit of Scheißenhauserei, as they call it in Germany, with delaying tactics and things like that. The goalkeeper's out. They've got. I didn't realise I had Goetze there, and he's an old hand. And
the forward's good.
Yeah, Goetze is there, and what we wouldn't give to have a kind of old hand leading the way in important games. I just don't. I question the mentality of our leadership group. I'm sorry, I just do. I thought Romero was poor against Chelsea again. I think Vicario, if he doesn't listen to his panpipe music before this game, he needs to be chilled. Are you saying that we're going to do Zagreb all over again? So we just
that's the type of result we're going to need. I think that's what I think we're going to need. 3-0. I think we'll win 2-1. I'm not sure that'll be enough in the away legs. I think it'll be quite hostile over there, but and we will mount under a hostile atmosphere, especially if they get a goal early. But I think it's going to need to be 3-0, 3-1.
Yeah,
I think that's what it's going to need to be. And we are capable of doing that. We are capable of doing that. Whether it's in us at the minute, whether a lot of the last 2 games I've watched, and I know it's not easy to judge. I've seen like Maddison strutting around. He's like
a peacock, isn't he?
Yeah, he is a strutting peacock. My father-in-law calls him the show pony.
He is.
I see games and I think this is like Southampton. You think, get on it today. They're not very good. Get on it. Start making things happen.
Yes.
He just drops in and struts around, gets on it, points everywhere. Always fucking point. You talk about flappy hands. He's the pointer. He's pointing to where people wants to, showing our players where he wants them to run, and the defender who's with them. So it's just like it's dropping deep. I want to see him playing high, and I want to see him trying to dictate the game and get on the ball and making things happen. And I just haven't seen it enough from him. And I just think he's either thinks, fuck this, I've had enough of this bloke. So I don't think him and Ange see eye to eye.
No, I think he's kind of the Arthur Scargill of the dressing room, right? He turns up, he's in the car park in his donkey jacket. He's got the fire going in one of those big tin containers. He's on strike. You never see the Tottenham. You don't see the Tottenham socials anymore asking players to play games on the way into training. Do you remember that? When they used to do Jenga things. Morning, Sonny. What do you think about Coronation Street last night? There's none of that anymore, is there?
Well, let's be honest. Like you're saying about the leadership group, we need Romero to be solid.
But that's not going to happen.
We need Vicario to be.
Sorry, I just had a guest mosquito come in. Carry on.
We need Vicario to be a calming influence and play out while we know he can. Mm-hmm. We need Maddison to get on it and making things happen. Vim's right. Maddison should be key to us on Thursday. He should be dictating the tempo, and we need Son at it. And when I'm talking about Son being we go on him crying at the end of the second leg. Fucking have some shots on the edge of the area, Son. He scored so many goals, curling them into the top corner, bladdering them in, beating a man in hitting it. Let's see some of that.
Let's be having you. Come on.
Let's be having you. Come on.
But I think, as I said after the home North London derby about Maddison, he reminds me of a bloke that you work with who goes around the office and makes a great play about he's showing how busy. How are you going? I'm so busy. I'm so busy at the moment. And then when you realise he does fuck all the whole time, that's what Maddison is. Yeah.
So, like, the strutting peak, I said the other day, Zach said his toes must kill when he comes off the pitch. You know what you mean? He's always like tippy-toeing and turning the ball and looking. And I said, he's not doing anything.
Look, everyone, I'm on the ball.
Yeah. Look at me.
He's like a West End choreographer. Yeah. Okay, you're there, and I want when I time you in, I want ta-ta-ta-ta-ta.
And I want the ball, and I'll have it in this area with no one on me, and I'll turn that way and turn the other. And then if they catch me, I'll go down. And then I'll look at the ref with a face so they can all see that I'm really annoyed that I've been. It's just like, fucking get on with it. Get on the ball. We want you to be making things happen here. That's what we need you to do. So yeah.
Look at you, Romero. Turn that frown upside down, and you'll have a smile. Come on, boys.
Yeah. I think I always say that if Maddison was a cat, he'd lick himself to death. Let's see him play some football on Thursday night. He is going to be key. I just don't think he's anywhere near as influential as we need him to be. Hopefully, he will be Thursday. I don't wish to
cut across and challenge you, Gibbo. But sometimes we have to have a difficult conversation here. I thought if someone thinks they're an ice cream, they lick themselves to death.
I'll say a cat.
You say a cat, I say an ice cream. It's like a musical tonight.
Yeah.
You know, we got Maddison with his choreography. Here we go. Let's look at this. In truth, Madders is a truce, but yeah.
I don't know. We've had some players of that mould.
Phil, you are our number one. You are literally our number one fan, Phil.
Well, what I want to see is what I expect, and I always used to say this about Eriksen, and Eriksen did it far more than Maddison. But neither, that Van der Vaart couldn't last the full game. But when Van der Vaart walked on the pitch for Spurs in any game, no matter what, no matter how big it was, I always got the feeling that the collar was up and he's thinking, I'm going to be the man today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's what he did. And whether he couldn't last the full game or whether it didn't come off for him, but that was his mentality. I'm the man. That's my job to do that today.
Yes.
Eriksen did it, not as much, but he did it more than Maddison. And it's, I'd say like Maddison is and he's had some good things, but he's like a bargain version of Eriksen.
Look, Eriksen is a good player, not a world-class player.
No, he was a very good player.
In the big games, the semis, the finals, do you ever remember him when we were playing where he needed to lift the team up when the team weren't playing well? Yeah. He never did that. I'm sorry. And the last 18 months of his Tottenham career,
he wanted out, didn't he?
He was not interested. If you're putting yourself in the shop window in the Champions League final, he was rubbish.
Yeah.
So I think we're almost finished now, but we did have this one question from Milton. Where is he? He's in Australia. Don't know where he is in Australia. How long have you followed Spurs for? What made you a Spurs fan? So how long have you followed Spurs for?
87, before they got to the cup final. Kid who I was matey with at school, at first school, supported Spurs. Everybody else supported Liverpool. And then I can just remember coming home from playing football on a local field. It was when football was on a Sunday afternoon. Tottenham were playing Arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
When Jimmy Greaves and that used to commentate. I think I'm sure we beat them. I can only vaguely remember. I just remember the kit. And
we didn't beat them that season. Oh no, we beat them in the League Cup semi-final first leg, I think. Yeah.
We had like Hoddle, Waddle, Clive Allen was scoring goals. I remember a picture of Richard Goff in my Match magazine. So because this other lad supported them, there was just something about them, something different. I should have just supported Liverpool, but do you know what I mean? But yeah, no, that's so 87 for me. Take us back to when you first started supporting Tottenham days.
Well, funny, Queen Victoria was on the throne and Benjamin Disraeli was the Prime Minister. I'm that old. No, I first started going in 77. Sorry.
I did have that.
He did love Diamond Lights. That was his favourite song ever. I first started going in 1977. My family had been going since 1938. So my granddad, and he should have gone to West Ham because we lived on Commercial Road in the 30s. He, for some reason unknown to anyone, he went to Tottenham. And my family had been going since 38. I went in 77. And Tottenham 9, Bristol Rovers 0 was my first game. Colin Lee got 4 goals. So there we go. Keith, similarly, handed down from my great-grandfather, who was a fan 100 years ago. There you go. Same as my granddad. It's been with me ever since, which is why, as I sometimes see people taking the piss out of our club, you've got to stand up for it. We know we're a laughing joke at the moment, and we have been for a number of years. And I firmly place that on the ownership. But it's in our blood. That's why we do this and why we love it. And I think on that note, should we end it? The show?
What? Oh, yeah. I was going to say, Dave, when you said end it, I was going to go, it ain't that bad, man.
Shall we do the first ever Spurs YouTube suicide live? We've gone dark, sorry.
No,
we're not going to end our lives, obviously, because there's far more important things in lives than football. And things are bad, ladies and gentlemen, but you never know. We beat Frankfurt under the lights in an all-white kit Thursday night. We might have our Tottenham back. Go on.
Come on, you Spurs, and let's try and end this show professionally, Dave.
Do we have to? Come on, you Spurs.